Okay, our next guest has received praise from the New York Times, and even Michael Shermer said that his art is to this decade what the God Delusion was for the previous one. He's a great dancer, a snappy dresser, and a brilliant artist trying to change the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Baba Brinkman. How you doing, Baba?
I'm doing pretty great, Kevin. Thanks for opening with that quote. That was a pretty funny one when I heard it.
See that? We just love you here in the Fraser Valley. Baba, you're making some waves out there in the atheist world, but maybe not everybody in our listening audience knows about you. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm a rap artist, but for several years I've been making the subject of my rap be about science and about religion and about secularism. Atheism is something that I'm out about and I'm quite happy to discuss, and I've made songs describing the reasons why I don't subscribe to religion or any version of the supernatural. But it's one facet. My most recent album that I'm working on now is about climate change. And, in that respect, the Pope is an ally. But when you talk about, the basis of morality or the origins of the universe, the Pope is an adversary. So, it's an interesting kind of concentric overlapping circles and Venn diagrams and strange bedfellows. But I'm basically making rap music about the big questions, intellectual topics, science, literature, philosophy, basically everything that I studied at university. I want to turn it into a mainstream culture using rap.
That's interesting. It seems most artists in the hip-hop rap world, they express personal issues. Why did you choose activism instead of talk about, your lost love or something like that?
Well, I do talk about personal issues, but I guess I just like big picture stuff. That's, I don't like small talk. I like big talk. And I get bored with all the cliches on the radio and how many songs can you make about lost love before it's all been done before? I know we are a sort of intuitive, emotionally driven species, so I'm not completely cynical about the reason certain content proliferates in mainstream pop culture, but I feel like there's an appetite for being intellectually stimulated by your art. I have that appetite. I like smart movies and smart music and smart comedy. There's no music out there that's smart enough for my appetite. So I'm trying to make the music that's going to be the most thought-provoking songs you can imagine somebody making because of how deep they go into intellectual content without sacrificing the quality of the rhymes and the beats and the fun part.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because usually when it comes to activism, it's much more of a visual media. So have something that's mainly auditory is an interesting take, and I take from your success, it's been very well received.
Well, yeah, I would say visual is important to me as well, because basically, I make as many music videos as I can afford to make. Music videos are just more expensive to make than albums, so I've recorded a lot more songs than I've made videos for, but anytime I've gotten a grant or a videographer has volunteered to spend some time on a project, or I've done a crowdfunding campaign, I got more than 20 videos on my YouTube site, and that's really like the natural conclusion of a song is a music video, and if I had my way, I'd make a music video for every song I ever recorded.
That's very interesting.
Because you're right, people do respond to the visual, don't they? And you can get thousands and thousands of views on YouTube, people will listen to the song when they're not watching a video, but there's something you could just really get the ideas across with a video most clearly.
I'm into sales, and there is this whole salesman trick. When you ask a question to somebody, and they have to think about something, and then you look at their body language, they will tell you what type of person they are. And it seems that the vast majority of us are visual people, and maybe that's why the film industry works so well when it comes to activism. But it's very interesting to see that you've taken that one step further and add a auditory side to all this.
Well, I think there's definitely some parallels between art and marketing and salesmanship because, when you're on stage performing, you're first and foremost selling your ideas and selling your performance and selling your persona. And if the audience isn't buying it, then the show does not last much longer.
That's fair enough. Now, we always hear about the scientific or the political perspective on certain issues. I guess I'd like to ask, what is your artist perspective? I mean, where do you think we stand on some of these issues you talk about?
Well, I'm influenced by provocateur artists. I'm influenced by by great writers, by Richard Dawkins and Steven Pinker, and people that bring scientific ideas to the mainstream. I'm also influenced by political comics like Tim Minchin and Bill Hicks and Ricky Gervais and Chris Rock, people that really actually like take the current political issues of the day and turn them into cutting social commentary. And then, of course, rappers, the sort of smart storytelling, social commentary rappers, like the old school sort of Slick Rick and Rakim and Chuck D was the first era of rap that I listened to, but there's a lot of great social commentary music happening right now. For instance, Kendrick Lamar, and there's that tradition, J Live, Black Thought from the Roots, Talib Kweli. So there's a lot of artists that bring an idea to the forefront and combine analysis, activism, and also get emotions stirred up. And that's what I love about rap as an art form, is that it's gutsy and it grabs you by the throat, and whatever its message happens to be, it's just really hard to ignore. So I think it's a great vehicle for spreading sort of awareness of secularism and rationalism and fighting against the ills of religion, which is something I care about a lot.
Mm-hmm. Between you and me, my golf club, favorite old school rap artist? Run DMC?
Well, I think probably I'd have to either say Slick Rick or Rakim. Okay. I'd say Slick Rick because of the storytelling ability, but Rakim, was just such an amazing lyricist. So, that I remember when I heard Paid in Full, I was probably like 11 years old. It's like, thinking of a master plan, ain't nothing but sweat inside my head. It's just like so evocative, just painting a picture with words.
That's awesome. Is the issue more important than the art?
Well, in the grand scheme of things, yes. If I'm making a song about climate change, for instance, like the issue is threatening human well-being on this planet, and the art is trivial. But on the other hand, when the issue requires consciousness to be raised, or perspectives to be shifted, or culture to be changed, like cultural norms to be shifted, then actually the art can be the thing that dislodges the issue from being as entrenched as it's been in the past. So, I think the art is an important lever to move the issue, but the issue, I think, is, the issue is more important, like, in reality. But on the other hand, if you just talk about the issue and you don't have style, no one's going to listen, right? So when you're actually doing a performance, when you're creating a song, the art is the most important thing. That's one thing I love about rap as well. It's like, the ethic is you got to move the crowd. It doesn't matter if you have something to say. How you say it is the key. And it's probably better to be saying, talking bullshit, but saying it in a way that's really compelling than having a deep message and saying it in a way that no one wants to listen to. Because then you're getting nothing off them, right? You got to at least be entertaining.
Interesting. Have you run into opposition because your message is using art form to be delivered? I mean, do people take you less seriously on the issue because you're using art?
Well, I think it does create a vulnerability because people can dismiss it as just merely artists.
Exactly. Right.
So when I tweeted some video out of a rap I did on climate change, and some climate denier on Twitter tweeted back saying, "Yeah, I get all my science advice from shallow entertainers," or some bitter thing like that. And it's like, well, but the thing that I try to do is I'm a science communicator via hip hop. I really like, my brand is peer reviewed rap, and I don't rap about science unless I've sort of run the concepts by a scientist, and I'm in correspondence with climate scientists for this new one. The last one, which was Rap Guide to Religion, there's this whole field of study which is evolutionary religious studies. And I was sending the lyrics to the top scholars in that field. So, in a way, it actually gives me a lot of swagger because I can stand on stage and be like, what? I'm speaking for science. And there's a sort of cocky mentality behind that. That's like, this is not just my opinion. This is me communicating the best understanding I could achieve of the facts and having that backed up by other scientists, by other scientists. I'm not a scientist, but having it backed up by scientists who have told me where I might have miscommunicated something, and I fixed that. So in that sense, I feel like if you have a problem with me, you have a problem with mainstream science, and then that suggests the problem might just be with you.
Now, you gotta admit, that's a great subtitle for an album: peer-reviewed, science-reviewed art or science-reviewed rap. And that's awesome. I love that.
It's the headline on my website, Baba Brinkman, peer-reviewed rap.
There we go.
If you want to describe me in one way, that's the way.
I love it. I love it. So when you look at, from the artist perspective, of course, as usual, what are you positive about when you look at the future? I mean, you're throwing the message out there. First of all, I guess, are people catching up to it? Are they listening? And are you positive about the future that we have as a species, I guess?
Yeah, I really am, actually. And, I think one thing I'm really positive about is just how much cooler science is getting. Like, it's happening. It's so amazing to see, that just because I remember sort of being a kid in the 80s and 90s, and, there's just this sort of stereotype of the sort of Poindexter, nerdy, Urkel.
Yes.
Like, if you care about information and data, and if you know what statistics mean, then that means by definition you've got no social skills. And that cliche was beat to death.
Yes.
And I think it's pretty much dead now. Actually, I mean, it's still obviously it's alive because like that's the whole premise of the Big Bang Theory is that you got to be Asperger's to be into science. But like there's a lot of cool mainstream culture, like the Neil deGrasse Tyson version, that is really like it's pop and it's fun and it's competing for the same space that the shallow stuff is competing for, and it's doing a great job of it. So I'm excited about that, and that's a zeitgeist that I'm trying to push forward. I'm trying to make science cool, but it's not just me. It's like a wave that's cresting, and I think that's. That speaks well for the future. It takes us one step closer to Star Trek.
No, absolutely. And I couldn't agree with you more. Remember, like, I don't know how old you are, but remember the old documentary style was the mating ritual of the giraffe it was extremely dry, extremely boring. So I guess, in that in mind, are we going to see a Bill Nye, Baba Brinkman album one day?
Yeah, so I've met Bill a couple times. He lives here in New York as well, and there's a funny sort of consilience where we seem to touch on the same subjects at around the same time. So he wrote a book about evolution. I put out an album about evolution.
Yes.
His most recent book is about climate change, and my next album is going to be about climate change. So we don't actually coordinate. And in some cases, I actually beat him to the punch. Like my evolution album came out before his evolution book, but it's been interesting how we've landed on the same things in a similar sequence. And I wouldn't rule out having him as a feature on one of my projects, but there's nothing specifically planned in that sense. But I can say he's definitely been an influence. When people ask me what I do, I have said, well, it's like Bill Nye, but hip hop. Because there was a time when if you said science communication, that was the only name that came up.
Yes, indeed. Have you kind of had offers or doing some partnership with other, for lack of a better term, mainstream rap artists, for example? You planning on doing a show with Drake or these big names by any chance?
Yeah, sure. As soon as Drake calls me, I'll jump right on there. No, I interact with rappers in a similar kind of echelon to the one that I'm at. I've got friends who are rappers that have sort of thousands to tens of thousands of fans, and I don't have friends that are rappers that have millions of fans, because the rappers that have millions of fans don't really have time.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I don't have Jay-Z's number in my phone, let's say.
Oh, I'll just give it to you.
That you keep on working to build your audience, and if I have a breakout hit, then that's when you start to be able to collaborate. I tossed some messages back and forth with a rapper called Mega Ran that I'm a big fan of, and he was like, "Hey, I like your stuff, so let's talk about doing a record together." That kind of thing is a nice side effect of putting music out that people respond well to is that you get to interact with people that you were fans of before.
Mm-hmm.
Although for me, that happens more with authors than with rappers. I'll say, like science writers and scientists who I'm a fan of their writing, I end up in correspondence with. Rappers tend to come across my stuff less often so far, but anything can happen.
Well, you're definitely a pioneer in the genre for sure. I'll give you that. Well, thank you so much for your time, Baba. But here's your chance. The mic is all yours. Go ahead, plug yourself. Be shameless. Go right ahead.
All right. Well, my next project is called The Rap Guide to Climate Chaos, and I premiered it at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland. It got some great reviews, and it's just been confirmed to do an off-Broadway run here in New York. So starting on February 25th, I'm going to be performing Rap Guide to Climate Chaos in a 200-seat theater, 5 shows a week. It's going to run for 2 months and maybe longer if it sells well. They might just extend it through the summer, which I hope happens. And if you want to support the project, I'm actually running an Indiegogo campaign right now. So if you just type in Baba Brinkman Rap Guide to Climate Chaos, you can sort of pre-order the album and get various perks like tickets to the show and T-shirts and all kinds of cool stuff. So this is the science of global warming done as hip hop, and I'll give you a little taste of one of the raps. A cappella. I don't have the beat here, but you'll be able to you'll get the beat. You'll get the beat from the flow of the words. All right. So how does the messaging around climate change go? Something like this. Be afraid, be very afraid, but we're not, despite what the scenarios say, and the effect of talking about it is visible yawning and occasionally change behavior microscopically, and even those who get it, they tend to get it logically but not viscerally, so we're navigating myopically. The threat is existential. It's not environmental, and your individual response is inconsequential. Only coordination of our whole species is going to keep coastal cities from sinking below the deep seas. And when was the last time a solution included all of us? Geophysics is at the mercy of geopolitics. Climate change communicators, keep it positive. People need to feel like they still have options, and we do have options. Either we find a solution or we stick with the business as usual level pollution and get used to the wars, famines, droughts, floods, hurricanes, heat waves, murders, thugs, chaos, refugees, stress, disease, extinctions, disasters, IPCC, which of course stands for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is where you can get the best science and the up-to-date statistics on global warming. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, his name is Baba Brinkman. Make sure to check him out. Thank you so much, Baba. Thank you for your time. And thank you for spending some time with us here today.
No problem. My pleasure. And shouts out to everybody in Vancouver and in the Fraser Valley. I grew up in New Westminster and in East Vancouver, so, I got a lot of love for that area.
Excellent. Thank you so much.